Right, I'm back in the office, and I've opened up the images that I took this morning. Now, I only really took two compositions. This was the first composition right here, and then the second one was this one here. Now, as you can see, they're quite dark, and the reason why they're so dark is because I'm exposing for the highlights. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I'm using the medium format camera now is the dynamic range is just exceptional. So I can more or less just take one shot. I don't have to stack a whole bunch of images together to get the right exposure. Now you can see there is a little bit of clipping up in the top corner here, but you got to remember that's almost direct sunlight. So if I brought the exposure down, you can see that no matter how much I bring the exposure down, there's no detail in that section. But it's not a huge deal because those areas that tend to be no detail anyway because it's just so bright. And also the shadows. So this is the exposure here. And as you can see, the shadows are very dark. But if I bring the exposure way, way up, you can see that there's no loss of quality when I bring those shadows up. There's no huge amount of noise or anything like that. You bring the shadows up and everything is still in there. And that's why I ended up getting a GFX 100. Now, I'm sure that the new full frame cameras do a similar job. It's just that, you know, when the sensor is so much bigger, you're just going to get so much more dynamic range. Right. Now, as far as the photographs go, I think I prefer this composition here. And the exposure on this is okay. I don't have any clipping in the corner here. And actually you still have detail in there. So if I bring the exposure way down, you can see that there's still detail over in that corner there. So I'm just going to bring it down to, let's see here. We'll go for the whites, press Option, and I'm just going to bring it to the point where it just starts to get overexposed. And then the blacks, same thing, Option key on a Mac. Bring the slider down, and I'm just going to bring it up to the right to the point where we still have a little bit of detail in the blacks here. This is the darkest point here. Incidentally, this line that keeps drawing, it's a new feature on my mouse. Every time I touch the Option key, though, it starts to paint, so just ignore that. There's a couple of other features on here, like I can highlight certain areas. If I press the Option key, then I can draw. So just ignore that. Right. So I like the exposure on this one, but the light in this photograph here, I actually prefer. You can see there's a little bit of light coming in through the gap there. The only problem with this exposure is that it is a little bit overexposed because obviously the sun has come out and the contrast range was just too high. So if I bring the exposure way down, you can see that there's no detail in there anyway. So I'd like to combine this photograph with this one here. Now you can see this one is a little bit brighter. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just bring the shadows up in this one a little bit. I don't want to bring the exposure up. Also, the horizon is out just a tad. So we'll just straighten that up. And this is 4x5 format. I want to get rid of that little peninsula there. So I'm just going to bring it across like that. So that looks great. Actually, I shouldn't have adjusted this one because I'm just going to copy that onto there. So let's select both and we'll sync those up. And this one I'll just have to adjust the... See, I really love that light in the foreground there. Bring the shadows down just a bit. And we'll bring the highlights down as well to there. Beautiful textures there. This actually might make a good black and white. So I quite like the effect of the ND filter here. I know some people don't like it. To my eye, whenever I have details in the water, unless you know it's a raging, wavy scene, I find it distracting, so I like to smooth it out a little bit. Right, so let's just grab both of those and we'll open up in Photoshop as layers. Okay, so we've opened this up as layers in Photoshop. The first thing I want to do is just, I'm going to grab the one with a nice light, put that on top. And I think I'm just going to grab both of these layers and just go up to Edit and Auto Align Layers. Just want to make sure that they're all lined up. I'm sure they are. So that'll take a little time to do. And then the top layer, I'm just going to put a black mask on that. So on a Mac, it's Option and press the little mask icon down at the bottom there. So now you can see that we can just see the bottom layer and not the top one. And what I want to do is paint in that rock from the top layer. Now I could use luminosity masks, but I don't think I need to do that. So just going to get a brush, B for brush, make sure it's white. You can press X on your keyboard and that changes the color. And then the flow and the opacity, I'm going to put at 100%. And all I'm going to do is just start painting the bottom here. And you can see that it's revealing that layer, the top layer there. So if we look at the mask here, Option, click on the mask, you can see where we have painted so far. So if you're not sure where you've painted, seems like I'm painting all over the mask here. So that gives you a pretty good idea. We'll just go to the mask again, Option, we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of those horrible lines. And the paintbrush, I'm going to harden it up just a little bit. And I'm just going to paint in up here. I'm just going to zoom in here. Oops. B for brush. Let's just soften that just a little bit. That might have been a bit too hard. And I'm just going to go along the edge here. Doesn't matter if we go over. The exposure difference, there is a bit of a difference in the exposure in the ocean, but you're not going to really notice it. Obviously, if you want to be more accurate, then you can use a luminosity mask. As you can see, these files are very large and they really slow your computer down. That's the only problem with these medium format files. And up here. And there. So if we look at the mask again, you can see that where we've painted, and if we've missed some spots, that we can just go over those really quickly. B, we can paint in this bit if you want to make sure that we get the full effect of the exposure in the top layer there. So you can see where we've just painted that effect in. And of course, if you want to blend the ocean in a little bit, we could bring the flow down. Let's bring it down to 17 or so, and use a quite a large brush that's very feathered, so 0 hardness, and I can just paint that in just so the exposure blends in a little bit better. And actually, let's just paint the cloud. The clouds are a little bit dark in that other exposure. All right, and there we go. And then I'll just make a few adjustments from there. So I might just dodge the light coming through here, just to emphasize that a little bit more. Perhaps just brighten up the shadows just a little bit more, and perhaps do a little bit of dodging over here as well. But that kind of gives you an idea of where I'm going with this, and I'll show you the end result. I won't turn this into a processing video. Let me know if you have any questions, and yeah, it's not a bad shot. I think the thing about areas like this is that, so now I've found a composition that I really quite like. And of course, because it's so close to home, I'm now able to just rush out there whenever the light is good. So it's only like a 10-minute drive. So I think I might go out there again tomorrow morning and try again with better light. So this will be my first composition. I'll just get set up, all ready to go. And then as soon as the sun comes up, we should get that beautiful warm light coming in from the background there.